Well, my father became an alcoholic when I was 6. He was around 44 years old. So I don't like running my father or my mother down because I honor them. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here in flesh. And so I honor them. Well, he was manic depressant, like me and my sister. Well, we just came to Dallas. I had saved some money up. I was 16, and I saved some money up, and I enjoyed it, really. I walked all over Dallas. All over Mesquite. I walked, must have been 20 or 30 miles I walked when I was young. I had a lot of energy, and even though, I wanted to finish my education, so I went to Crozier Tech. It's not in existence anymore. They had shop, and they had art classes, which I've never been in one, and
The drawing that is before me at the moment is a work by Valton Tyler. It is from a series of drawings that represents some of the very earliest works that my father saw when Valton and his brother came to visit with him back in approximately 1970. I don't remember the exact date. My father was so impressed with what Valton had been doing that he asked Valton if he would have any interest in, or if he had ever produced prints. And Valton seemed to have interest in that, and my father set it up so that he could go to Southern Methodist University under the tutelage of Lawrence Scholder, who was the head of the department at SMU at the time. And he started a series, an exceptional series of prints sort of in this direction. Many of them are handled in a similar manner. But he did a series of prints, actually 50 different prints were produced in the period of 1 year. And which was so astounding. It was great for Valton to be released to do something that creative. It was also great for the students who came in and saw Valton working. Valton, after he produced the 50 prints, he started doing paintings, and the paintings he did were very similar to the drawings and prints in actuality. And the painting to my right here is from that early series of paintings that Valton did. It's very monochromatic, very subtle, quiet. It has a good contrast range, but there's not a lot of color in the paintings. And when my mother later on suggested, Valton, have you ever thought about adding more color to your paintings? He indicated that color made him ill, and he actually said that he just couldn't do it. It didn't work for him.
Gauguin said that shape tells you pretty much what the color should be. And that is sort of the way I feel. And that taught me a lot about myself and a truth about design and color combination. And some designs like to be just one color, and then some like to be mixed colors. But I like to separate colors and not put so much reflected light of other colors around each other color. To me, they're separate. They're in their own world. If I put reflected color light into the shapes, then what happens is that it loses its own personal feelings. Nothing has a meaning. Everything is just shapes. They communicate. I try to make them communicate with each other on a basis, not a human communication, because each shape has feelings. They're not real. Everything is fiction. The only reality there really is the acceptance of a higher power, which is God Himself. And so everything is fiction. Even flesh is fiction.
I mean, I remember when Donald showed me your drawings and Carl, and he was he said, you know, this guy's just a natural for, you know, they were those big paintings.
Right.
So we arranged for you to come down, and I just showed you.
I love it.
Very rudimentary etching. See a plate like this size?
Yeah.
A lot of these were one-shot deals. He started and drew the whole thing. Must have taken him all night long.
Oh, yeah.
I used to come in the morning, and Valton would be standing at one of the tables, and he'd be finished, and there would be like these pyramid of cigarette butts around his feet. Or if he had finished earlier, he would either be asleep on the table, under the table, or back in the storeroom.
Oh, I know. I would be so tired. I lay on one of those tables, and I started laughing, and that got me to sleep. I started laughing there, and then I just went to sleep. And then before I knew it, you were already here and woke me up, and I said, oh, well. The class is going to be starting pretty soon.
You got to remember, this place was filled with 18, 19-year-old students, and they'd come in the morning. And at first they thought, they didn't know what to think. I mean, they had never run across another artist with a work ethic like you have. And it's something you can tell them about.
Yeah.
But until they see it happening.
I love this place. It was home.
Actually, my first encounter with Valton was when I came to Dallas. I was living in North Carolina, in Durham, and my father was sick, and I came to Dallas, and he had just moved to Turtle Creek. He had left my mother, and he's in the antique business, big time. And he pulled out this large painting, pastel painting with it was sort of more of a surreal type painting. And he said, a friend of mine did this for me. And then he showed me this book of Valton Tyler's, and it was the first 50 prints. And, I was looking through that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. I said, who is this? And he said, he's a good friend of mine, and he said, he's a genius. And so that was my first introduction to Valton. And Mrs. Teasel always came to his business to buy. She called him her overseas buyer. And she and Valton would come over and buy. So that, I mean, that was basically how we met. Valton said to me, well, you can come by anytime if you want and just sit around and you can watch me paint and you don't have to worry about, you know, anything. You can just be there and not worry and just sit around. And to me that was like, wow, that's such a nice invitation. Made me feel good, and I took him up on the offer. So that's kind of how, that's how it got started in my brain.
Where's your, what's this? Is this chocolate? Maybe this right here.
Well, this one here is,
Yeah,
that's going to be all white. Here you go, Mr. Tyler. If you want to see what the texture is.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's more like it. It looked like more like canvas. Let me rip the top and see. And this is the thickness of it?
No, that's just the cover. This is one.
Oh, that's just the cover.
There you go.
Yeah. And that has texture?
29.15.
29.15.
You do?
A drawing on something that I don't know what I'm going to be drawing on. This is more like, yeah, this is more like it than that other. 24 sheets. I'll do that in about an hour and a half.
We have a lot of people that use charcoal on this paper here. It's really good. And you get them in different colors.
What's this? Oh, that's right. How much is this one? Oh, I was gonna pay him with my phone.
The 33.88.
30.
Valton, the first time I met you, as you well know, was going, we had set up our antique map and fine print shop in the same building that Lucille Teasel was in.
Right.
And it was the first or second week we were there that she invited us over to see her antiques, and we noticed what beautiful things she had, very fine antiques, but in the background were these incredible two large surreal paintings. One was bubblegum pink, and the other one had these huge, great standing figures like mechanical robot things. And we thought, my word, what are those doing in an antique shop?
Right.
And she said, well, you know, my adopted son, Valton, he is very close, and he's a great painter. Yeah. And so I think the next 2 weeks you came in and we met.
I met her when she had her place across from the quadrangle.
Oh, right, okay.
And there was two houses there, and I Sometimes I use the empty house, the Victorian house type structure, later on.
For your studio?
Well, actually, I took women in there.
Oh, okay. All right, Valton.
and had a wonderful time. But anyway, I had a studio with Miss Teasel upstairs.
Okay.
And she bought me materials, drawing paper. She bought me 3 drawing tables.
Wow.
Easel to paint. But,
I remember you told me a story that when you were your mother was concerned about you because you were drawing on your jeans all of these
oh, that
forms.
was Miss Teasel.
Or Miss Teasel, okay, that you were drawing on your pants, and of course it was the 60s, and I'm sure people were doing crazy things, and they were concerned.
Just, I was going to go to Terrell Mental Hospital. I had already been to Woodlawn Mental Hospital for about 3 weeks, and I checked myself out.
Okay.
And they let me work for an engraving company.
Oh, okay. I remember you told me
and I
that.
learned a lot through that.
I remember you telling me that you're very concerned that Mr. Vogel understood that you really could paint, and you, I guess 10 or 15 years ago, brought me in a painting that you were very interested in, and it was one that was your only realistic painting you could paint.
Yeah, well, it was a self-portrait.
A self-portrait.
A sketch. It's sort of a sketch in oil, but it's a painting.
And you've dated it here. This is one of your first paintings here, March 10th, 1970.
March 10th, 1970, and it looked a lot like me.
It sure does.
My hair was like that, exactly like that.
Now, Valton, why is it that there's I mean, I know it's a self-portrait, but why would someone put someone else's figure in their self-portrait? So what is the story behind the other figure there?
That it's just a symbol of death.
Okay.
And
like a ghost?
Sort of well, I don't believe in ghosts. Spirits.
Okay.
It's a spirit. Ghost is, it's a different story.
Well, I always loved your drawings, and
yes.
One of the drawings that I remember our project was, you said if I brought you over paper and a couple Diet Pepsis, that you would engage me and draw on paper, because I love any works on paper. So this is the first piece that you drew on your kitchen table. I don't know if you remember that, but
yes.
It's called Homeless Dinosaur.
Yes.
And it really is one of the, it's a very fast drawing. I think you did this in about 25, 30 minutes as we talked, and you pretty much talked to me most of the time, looking at me and drawing with your other hands. So, but you called these, I remember asking you about these because I've watched you do many of these, and they sort of just take form as you draw, and you're not really, you're talking, but you're not looking at what you're doing, but you know what you're doing because you're drawing the figures. You call these spontaneous drawings.
You notice that there is no pencil drawing, no racing. Everything is done by just ink, pen, and then I shade it in with prism colors. And so there's no room for mistakes.
Right.
And if there is a mistake, I turn it into part of the composition. Nothing. Just the shape. I don't think that much, And I love doing these things. I can't. I'm addicted to it, in a sense. like I have to do it. If I don't do it, then I feel like I'm not living. I feel like I'm dead. And I don't want to be a man that's like in the bed on hinges, door on hinges, like the Bible says. I want to be able to do something in this world.
Hey, Valton.
Oh, God!
How are you,
My
man?
God!
I see, buddy.
Thank you.
You're looking
One of my
good.
best collectors.
Oh, man.
Ah,
First time I saw your work was at Valley House back in the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in the mid-70s.
yeah.
I was out visiting with Donald Vogel, and quite frankly, I'd never seen anything quite like this at
That's
that point,
right.
and I really haven't seen much like this since. It's
Well.
exciting, but it was so different from anything that I'd been exposed to or that I'd ever responded to. But the
Yeah.
consistency from start
Yeah.
to where you are now has been also a remarkable thing. So it took me close to 15 years of seeing your things at Valley House before we actually got together and you did the first piece for me
I
in
enjoy it.
in
Hey,
1991.
You were a savior. I was
Well, I don't-
depressed doing small paintings. When I was able to do another big painting,
Uh-huh.
I rejoiced, and that's why I think I did a good job
Oh
on
my
that.
God. They're so beautiful.
The Visit.
Yeah.
I just wanted to call it The Visit because it was simplified, and then people asked what visit was it, and then anyone can say it was from Claude's cabin in Fulton, Arkansas.
That's right.
Yeah.
I fed you sugar snap peas the night.
Oh yeah, and
You
it
were up there, and by golly, they showed up in the
showed
painting.
up in the painting.
And when I saw
love
those sugar snap peas hanging along, and so
I,
from that point on, you must have executed at least 20 pieces for me
you
over the
yeah,
over the years. This would be
absolutely
kind of on the larger end, and that would certainly be one of the
Yeah.
smaller ones. So
right.
it's been, from ranches to swamps to just things
Oh,
coming
I
out of that
know.
head of yours. It's been
Yeah.
an amazing journey. Most painters that I know, they certainly love their time when they can take a vacation, but they're
Right.
really not happy unless they're in the studio
Oh, I know. Yeah.
making the wonderful
yeah.
things that you make.
Well, I'm glad I didn't go places. I felt I didn't have time, really.
Well, you went to places in your head that none of us can actually
Well.
ever go.
I know that there were a lot of stories about Valton, a lot of anecdotes, and a lot about how Miss Teasel found him and how he used to give his art away. I remember that one. He used to give his art away. And I don't really remember the details, but I do remember that was, people were kind of confounded by all that. That seemed very, very, very strange to them. And I personally thought Valton was quite a unique guy, but I always loved him, and I always thought he was incredible talent. His stuff blew me away. Of course, Valton has always been known as an eccentric, and he is quite eccentric. He's had periods in his life. I will say that he was a chain smoker, which I am, and I was never able to stop. And I know that when he found out he should stop, he stopped overnight, and that absolutely blew me away because I couldn't do that. And it was the same thing with drinking. Valton and I used to drink a lot. I think Valton was a bigger drinker than I was.
Yes.
But he did the same thing. He absolutely stopped when he had to. Do you remember when you did that picture for me?
Oh, yes. I don't remember exactly what year I did.
It says 1980, so.
Oh, 1980? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it says it.
Yeah.
I don't think, I wouldn't remember it either.
I
but
was at Chelsea Square, and my studio had in Chelsea Square.
Yeah, I remember that too.
And I did that, and I wanted to do a portrait of you as a knight on a horse.
Well, no, you didn't tell me that at first.
Well, I know.
You spent a lot of time telling me that it wasn't going to be graphic, pictorial, and I said, I got that, I understood that, because none of your stuff was. And you were very apologetic about that, because it wasn't going to be a conventional portrait. I said, no, I know that, I don't want one like that.
Yeah.
I remember when you showed me the picture, you also apologized for it, and you said, and I said, Valton, I said, I'm a knight on a horse, for God's sake. I can't be anything better. But no, I think this kind of surrealistic or the kind of art that Valton does is not the kind of art that you'll find that often in Dallas. Well, I think it's quite obvious that that I appreciate Valton and his work immensely. I really feel privileged to own the things, and I'm really glad I have what I have.